Hello. You can reach out to me by email at beingmsdiva@gmail.com if you are interested in being on my show or just want to talk to me. Have a blessed day. Enjoy. Hello. Thank you for listening. I know I talked about in episode 8 the day that I decided to leave this man, the relationship. Um, I still had the struggles. I still had to keep myself from going back. I still had to remind myself to not go back. It was a struggle. It was a daily struggle because this is all that I knew. This lifestyle was all that I knew. And I may have left this man, but I didn't know no other lifestyle, no other relationship. I didn't know nothing else. This is what I did for almost 11 years. So it was something that even though I left him, I still had feelings. I know that may sound, kind of strange. How can you have feelings for somebody that abused you? And you can, because um, if this is your only relationship that you've ever been in, and it wasn't always bad, but the bad times was real bad, the good times was real good. You know, you didn't know you had no other lifestyle than this lifestyle that you was in. And even though it was an abusive lifestyle, it was an abusive relationship, you still had those struggles. Even though I left him, I still was struggling with staying away from him because, I may not have seen him for years, but I still, deep down, there was a part of me that had feelings for him. So I had to fight those feelings. I had to overcome that. And it is something that takes time. The struggle is real. The fear is real. The intimidation is real. It's not something that you get over in a day, in a night, in a week, in a month. It's something that is a struggle that you have to, how can I put it? You have to continue to tell yourself, don't go back. There was days I was lonely, and if you haven't been in an abusive relationship, you probably cannot understand when by me saying there was days I was lonely, but there was days I was lonely. There was days that I missed him, because the good days seemed to outweigh the bad days. So the good days stayed in my mind and in my heart, and I struggled with it. I struggled so bad with it, but I had to deep down inside tell myself, you got to do this. I had to keep getting my girls, hugging them, talking to myself. Remember, I didn't talk to my sister about the relationship. When she did ask me, what was the real reason why you left him? I would just say I just got tired. I needed a change. I wanted to change. I want to be different. I didn't want to, continue living with a man. And I just wanted to be different. That's what I would always explain to her. I would always tell her I just wanted different life. I couldn't tell her the truth. I couldn't tell her anything because deep down inside I thought she would never understood. She would judge me. She would say things because she wasn't never in an abusive relationship. She was never beat sexually, physically. She wasn't torn down with words. She wasn't slapped in the face, kicked around. You know, she didn't experience that kind of relationship, and I did. And there was no way I was going to tell her about something that I felt she would never understand. And in reality, she wouldn't, because if you're not in a relationship, I mean, an abusive relationship, you'll never understand the hurt. You'll never understand the feelings that we have. You'll never understand the deep hurt that is in us. You'll never understand it if you haven't been there. You got to be in a situation where and say, well, I understand what you're going through. So I didn't know who to talk to. So I struggled with keeping myself from going back. And when I thought I had beat it and everything was all right, I was going somewhere and I saw him, and I felt fear rising up. He pulled up alongside of me. He said, I'm not going to hurt you. I just need to talk to you. If you don't mind, just give me a few minutes just to talk, please. And of course, I went in the car with him, and he was apologizing, very apologetic, very, very saying, oh, when I sit back and I think about what I did to you, oh, I am so hurt. He was baiting that line, like a fisherman puts that worm on that line to catch that fish. He throw his line out there. May not happen the first day, the first hour, but he does not stop. He will continue. He would change baits. He would get a different bait. If he didn't catch something that day, he would go get another bait, and he would try again with a different bait. But he was determined to get this fish. He was determined to get fish. So that's how this man was. He was determined to get me back, and he had to find the right words to say. He had to, bake that there line just right to hook me in and slowly bring it back, because you can't wind it back real fast, when you're fishing, because if you do that, you're going to lose that fish. So he had to slowly wind that their line up to get me to the point where I got her. It took a couple of weeks, you know, took about a month and a half before I settled into believing the lies, because he wasn't doing anything. He wasn't raising his voice. He wasn't hitting me. He wasn't trying to hurt me. He was talking to me when he seen me. I would meet him, once a week, and that's all it took. Me to continue to get in that car, continue to spend time with him. And he was getting the right bait. And once he got that right bait, and he slowly reeled me in, and he caught me, I went back, not to live with him. I went back, and he convinced me to have sex with him, said, I'm not going to hurt you. And he put the sweetness on. He didn't just have one line, he had two lines. He didn't just have one fishing pole, he had two. So I fell for it, because every time we would have sex, it wasn't nothing rough. It was so gentle and so kind, and he was so compassionate, until once I found out I was pregnant. I didn't know what to do. Here I was, saved, living for the Lord, going to church. Didn't tell my sister I was beating him. Didn't tell my sister, anything. I started sneaking around with him. That's how I did when I first met him. Snuck around. Didn't let no one know anything about it. But I got pregnant. And when I found out I was pregnant, and the day that he came and we got together, and I told him, I'm pregnant, that suit that he had on, that suit of gentle words, kindness, respectful, loving individual, he took that suit off, and I saw who I lived with come out. He started calling me out of my name. Said, if you think that I'm going to believe that you got pregnant by me and I haven't seen you in a while, and now you want to try to pin this pregnancy on me, and he start calling me out of my name, slapping me, opened up the door and kicked me, literally kicked me out of the car, literally kicked me out of the car. And he said, I got what I wanted. I knew you would come back because you're weak, but that baby ain't mine. You go to the daddy of that baby and you tell him that he got you pregnant because I didn't get you pregnant. I don't want you. I just wanted to have sex and you fell for it. Once again, I win. And he pulled off. I laid on that ground and I cried and I cried. And I said, how am I going to tell my sister that I got pregnant? What am I going to do now? Should I just leave? Can I just leave and find another place? But I said, no, I am going to tell my sister. I told her. She didn't yell at me. She didn't tell me, oh, she didn't call me stupid. She didn't call me anything. She said, now, since you gave your life to the Lord, you're going to have to deal with the pressure that you're going to get. And I was saved. I went to church, but I wasn't allowed to do anything in the church. I'm not here to bash church or anything like that. I'm just saying what happened to me, my journey. I wasn't allowed to do anything in the church. And that was another thing that I took as a hurting. Here it is that you say you love me, but I made a mistake and got pregnant, and you're judging me. So I kept going to church. January 1980, I had my son. I didn't see this man no more. My sister asked me, who's the baby daddy? And I said, the girl's father, the same man. She said, all right, are you going to go back? I said, no, I'm not going back. I made up my mind I'm not going back. And that's the truth. And I knew I couldn't go back because I knew he would not only beat me, but I would wind up in the hospital. He would probably try to hurt me in a way that I would regret it the rest of my life. So I said to myself, I asked the Lord to forgive me. And always the Lord forgave me. But I had to build myself up, encourage myself, because the hurt individual that came out of that abusive relationship stood back up. I cried in secret. Went in my room, I cried. I talked to myself. I called myself stupid. Why did you allow that to happen? I beat myself up again. But one thing about it, I had to be the mother for 3 children. I had to be their mother, regardless. They didn't do anything to me. My kids didn't do anything to me, so I couldn't not love them or treat them in any other way. It wasn't nothing that they did. It was something that I allowed once again to happen. So I had to get me back. I had to get that girl back, that happy girl, and it took a while. And it didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen years. I carried that struggle. I carried that depression. I carried that hurt for years. For years, I carried it. That's why I said it's best to get it out and talk about it, because you can't keep carrying something and it not eventually destroy you. I just lived life as an empty vessel. I walked around, put on like I was happy, like, like everything was okay. I did that for years. I had such a fear of men, being around men, being in close contact with men. I had a fear of men so great. I never talked about it to nobody. And I knew that I needed help, but I didn't know how to get that help. I didn't know how to talk about it. So I understand and I know. So thank you for listening. As always, God loves you and so do I. If you ever want to be part of my podcast, my show, you can email me at beingmsdiva@gmail.com. Be blessed. Have an awesome day. Remember, God loves you and so do I.